And those who are having any doubts, you can unmute your mic and you can interrupt me anytime whenever you have a doubt. Okay. So just getting into the introduction. So basically, what we are going to do is we are going to see how to interface the different types of sensors with this ESP8266 microcontroller. And actually, it's not a AVR. It's a Wi-Fi based microcontroller. Okay, so coming to the introduction, so why we want to go for ESP8266? Actually, since you are third year, I believe a lot of people, a lot of students, you already have tried Arduino and different types of Arduino, because Arduino is a AVR microcontroller with 8-bit, and you can easily program. Even school students are nowadays programming with Arduinos, right? So I just don't want to go again with Arduino and say how to interface and all those things. So I just want to get into the next level, so that apart from Arduino, we have one more controller, that is ESP8266, which is using the same Arduino IDE, and also you can do the IoT, that is Internet of Things based operations, because in Arduino there is no Wi-Fi controller inbuilt, whereas in ESP8266 we have the inbuilt Wi-Fi controllers, and it's a low cost, and by using this you can easily create your IoT applications. Okay, so that is the difference actually. So ESP8266 is a TCP/IP stack integrated microcontroller. It's a Wi-Fi microcontroller, so that we can directly connect this microcontroller to the Wi-Fi network. Like you can connect to a router, or you can create an access point, and you can do some wireless sort of operations. Whereas in Arduino, you have to, if you want to do any wireless, you have to connect the external modules, right? I think most of you have already worked in Arduinos, because you are third year, right? So you might have done some projects or mini projects, something like that, and you have experienced using Arduinos, right? So in that, if you want to connect any sensors, you will directly interface, and if you want to make it wireless, you have to connect the external module like Bluetooth or the GSM, or you have to connect the Wi-Fi, and then you want to make it as a wireless. And there are a lot of Wi-Fi modules available, wireless modules available, right? Like NRF, RF, etc. Right? LoRa is nowadays we are using a lot of projects. Okay. But here in the case of ESP8266, it has the integrated Wi-Fi built-in TCP/IP stack itself. So it is very easy for doing the wireless projects along with the internet integration. So that is why I want to show you how we can interface with ESP8266. So the what you are seeing in the picture is different types of ESP8266. I will show you the one, because I want to go more with the hardware. So I will show you the one controller.
Ravi Varman, it's not audible. Hello. Sollupa. ரவிவர்மன் நான் கொஞ்சம் அன்மியூட் பண்ணோம், சவுண்ட் கேட்கல. நோ, இல்லப்பா இல்ல. No, can you able to hear me? இல்ல இல்ல, உங்களுக்கு நான் பேசுறது வந்து செல்போன்ல தான் கேக்குது, இதுல கேட்கலன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஹலோ ரவிவர்மன், இல்ல 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 இல்ல, செல்போன்ல தான் கேக்குது எனக்கு, அதுல கேட்க மாட்டேங்குது. நீங்க ஹெட்செட்ல ஏதோ கனெக்ட் பண்ணிருக்கீங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அதுல செட்டிங்ஸ்ல போய் பாருங்க. ஜஸ்ட் உங்களோட செட்டிங்ஸ்ல. இன்னும் உங்களோட செட்டிங்ஸ்ல இல்ல இல்ல, உங்களோட செட்டிங்ஸ்ல போய் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா சவுண்டுன்னு இருக்கும் பாருங்க. அதுல செட்டிங்ஸ்ல ஆடியோன்னு இருக்கும். தேர் யூ நீட் டு சேஞ்ச் வித் யர் மைக்ரோஃபோன், ஐ திங்க் ஸோ. அதர்வைஸ் நான் என்னோடது மியூட் பண்ணட்டுமா? Just a second, students, because we are facing some technical issue. So kindly don't leave, okay? உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது எவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்பட்டு அரேஞ்ச் பண்றோம்னு.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah. We can able to hear now.
Yeah, I just logged out and
Yeah.
logged back. Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
So I will.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
you
I
can
will
continue.
Yeah, okay, sir. Where I left actually, I don't know because I am keep on going.
We have just moved to the presentation. That is, you have to switch on your camera. Na? From there on you have left. We not able to hear you.
Yeah, okay, sir. Okay, I will go on. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, I just start with the beginning. So today we are going to see with ESP8266 microcontroller. So regarding the ESP8266 microcontroller is the Wi-Fi integrated controller. Okay, you guys have already done with Arduino. So Arduino is a basic controller which a lot of students are nowadays doing with the mini projects and all those things, right? So today we are going to see with the ESP controller. It is a next step again with the Arduino actually. So this controllers has an integrated TCP/IP stack in this, so that you can directly do the Wi-Fi sort of wireless operations, and you can make this controller as the access point, or you can make this controller as the station mode. Okay, so these are all the thing what you can do with this ESP8266 controller actually. So in this we have the ESP01. So this is the basic family version. This is the beginner version of ESP controller which all started with the ESP series. And ESP01 you can directly integrate with any other controllers that doesn't have the Wi-Fi access, and you make it as Wi-Fi device. Okay, and then we have a lot of controllers in the series like ESP0203, and we have the ESP32. So the latest version what you can see is ESP32. Okay, you can see the ESP32 which has a lot of features. It has an integrated Wi-Fi, and also it has an integrated Bluetooth. Okay, ESP32 has both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so that you can have the two types of wireless devices in the same model. So that is the advantages. Okay, so also you have the integrated camera in ESP32 modules. Okay, so you have the integrated camera so that you can do the face recognition and other sort of things with this Wi-Fi module itself. I will show you the things. Okay, so we have the ESP32 camera modules also nowadays. So this is the ESP32 camera modules, by using which you can directly do some image processing sort of things, that is low speed image processing sort of things by using this model. Okay, so this is the ESP32 cam, and in this we have the advanced version called ESP32i version. Okay, we have the I version. So this is something like we have the AI integrated in the camera model. Okay, so this is ESP32i version. So in this we have the integrated AI, artificial intelligence algorithm is integrated in this model, so that if you want to do any AI sort of coding, we can use this ESP-I. So there are a lot of models is coming with the ESP8266 and ESP series of controllers. Okay, so today we are going to see. Okay, so today we are going to see the. I will just show you the camera screen in the VLC viewer, so that you can see the board. So I just trying to show my. Okay, so this is the ESP32. Just a second. So what you are seeing here is the Node MCU. Okay, so this is the Node MCU based on ESP12E. So Node MCU is basically a development board. Okay, Node MCU is basically a development board with the integrated ESP module. ESP is the series of microcontroller. ESP, whatever I say, ESP is a series of microcontrollers, whereas Node MCU is the development board. So development board will have the microcontroller along with some additional features. Okay, so additional features like it has a voltage regulator. So voltage regulator, the ESP series controller will work with voltage of 3.3 voltage logic, but we are not able to provide the 3.3 voltage, right? So what we do, we have some regulator circuit that will do the level conversion process. Okay, so this development board has an integrated level conversion chip, so that we can directly give 5 volt or 6 volt to the voltage input, and this module will automatically do the voltage regulation and give to the controller. And this module also has the uh, TTL interface. Okay, so this module has the TTL to USB converter interface, so that you can directly connect to the laptop or your desktop computers. Okay, it has a micro USB connector. So as you can see, it has a micro USB connector. By using this micro USB connector, you can directly connect this module to your system and program it by using the Arduino IDE or any other IDE like Platform IO, or you can use the Eclipse IDE. So a lot of IDEs are available nowadays. Okay, so by using different types of IDEs, or you can use the Lua IDE or Expressif IDE. So a lot of IDEs are available. By using that, you can directly connect this module to your system and program this module. Okay, so this is the development board. This development board consists of a ESP Wi-Fi controller, voltage regulator process, and this is the TTL to USB converter. So this is how this model is. So when coming to the ESP12E, that is a specific controller. As you can see, we have a lot of GPIOs. So you can see a lot of GPIOs are there. So by using this GPIO, we can directly interface the sensors, like digital sensors. We can directly interface, and we have the different protocols of sensors like I2C, SPI. You can directly interface this to this controller, and by using these GPIOs, the input, these pins can be either configured as the input pin, or it can be configured as the output pin. Okay, the GPIO term refers to general purpose input output. Okay, IO, it's a port pins. So GPIO means general purpose input output. We can connect the input devices, or we can connect the output devices to these pins. Okay, so what are the functions it can have? These pins will act as the uh, multiplexed inputs actually. So multiplexed input, like apart from GPIO function, it can also do the SPI function, that is serial peripheral interface, and it also has a serial input. Okay, it has a serial input, so that you can directly connect to your serial devices like GPS, GSM, or Bluetooth, or any other serial devices is there, right? So you can directly connect to the ESP controller. So what are all the protocol it will support? It will support the serial, so that you can connect to your serial devices like GSM, GPS, Zigbee. So like this, the serial devices you can directly connect to this controller, and it will support the SPI, serial peripheral interface. So a lot of MEMS sensors nowadays will coming either in SPI or in I2C. Okay, so it supports I2C also, that is integrated chip, so that you can directly connect to your I2C sensors. And today also we are going to see one demo of connecting I2C sensor to this controller. So by using the I2C, we can easily connect the sensors to the controller by using two wire. Okay, by two wire you can connect the numerous sensors to the same line. By using the address, you can access the sensors. Okay, so it will support the I2C. So it will also support the one wire by means of software. So it will also support one wire communication. Okay, and it has the integrated ADC with a single channel. So it has ADC, analog to digital converter, so that you can directly connect the analog sensor. That is single channel here. In case of Arduino, we will be having 6 channels, right? But here this will support the single channel analog to digital converter. Okay, so these are all the features of this ESP. While getting into the closer look, as I already said you, it has this development board. Okay, Node MCU is a development board that consists of ESP12E microcontroller, and it has a voltage regulator, so that you can directly connect your 9-volt batteries, or you can directly connect your 5-volt or 6-volt to the raw pin of the development board. It will do the regulation process, and then it will give to the microcontroller. And it has a converter, which by using which you can directly connect to the PC. Okay, so this is a converter chip. By using it, you can directly connect to the PC. So and when you send the program, that signals will come to the this converter, that is TTL converter, and after that it will go to the microcontroller by means of TTL signals. Okay, so this is the look of this board. And while coming to the program, the internal firmware, actually it's a Node MCU is also is a open source firmware. Okay, you can directly download the open source firmware. You can get a raw controller from the market, and you can update your firmware of the controller. They have given the access in the by means of open source. Okay, it's not a proprietary. by means of open source, they have given the access to the firmware so that you can directly update your firmware. Okay, right now we have 1.0 and 0.9 like this. The firmware versions will be there. By using this, we can directly upgrade the firmware of the controller. The firmware is nothing but a piece of software inside the controller sitting in the boot sections and guiding you to do the direct programming, all those things. Okay, so the firmware is a piece of software. Okay, so that piece of software will help you in programming the controller in a much better way. Okay, and you can program this controller by using the Arduino IDE. Okay, you can program this controller by using the Arduino IDE, or you can use the Eclipse IDE. You can use the general Eclipse IDE and you can configure for the this Wi-Fi controller. Okay. So while coming to the other specifications like what are the voltage levels and current consumption and what is the RAM, ROM, all those things. So it is the 3.3 voltage device. Okay, ESP12 is a 3.3 voltage device like the Raspberry Pi. It is also operate in 3.3 voltage logic. The current consumption of the thing is 250 milliamps and it is a 32-bit controller. Whereas the Arduino or AVR controllers, that is Atmega 328P or Atmega 32U4, all those controllers are 8-bit, right? So it is a 32-bit controller and it has an internal 32K SRAM and 80K DRAM. And we have the flash programming of 200K. Okay, and you can directly connect this board to your PC because Node MCU is a development board, right? So you can directly connect this development board to your PC using the USB cable, so that we can give the 5-volt input to the input side of the voltage regulators. And it has the support to the digital IOs. Digital IOs, you can directly connect the LEDs or buttons or relays. What are the digital signals, right? So you can directly connect to this controller, and it has a 10-bit ADC. So 10-bit ADC in the sense 2 power 10, you can have the resolution of 1024. Okay, so it is the 10-bit ADC. So you have the resolution of 1024, 10-bit resolution, and you can connect the I2C. It supports the PWM, so you can directly have the PWM output, and so that you can control some speed, or if you want to dim the light, you can directly have the PWM. And one more thing is you can use the any GPIO pin of this controller as a PWM pin. You can easily configure and use it. In case of Arduino, you will be specified like 2, 3, 5, 6, or 9. They will be specifying the particular pin numbers as a PWM. But in this case, you can use any pin as a PWM pin. It has the SPI interface support and it has a serial communication support. Okay. So as I already told, you can program it by using the Lua script or ESP Explorer. ESP Explorer is a software provided by the ESP manufacturers. By using this also, you can program this controller, or you can use the Lua script, or you can use the MicroPython. You can use the MicroPython to program. You can use the JavaScript to program. And of course, for easy learning, you can use the Arduino IDE for programming this controller. So these slides tell you what are the voltage level current, what are the voltage current properties, and what are the memory properties, and what are the different types of interfaces, communication interfaces that is supported by this controller. So the interface is very important because when you are connecting some modules or sensors to this controller, you will be using any of this interface like a serial or I2C or a digital. You will be using any of this interface, right? So these are all the interfaces that is supported by this controller. Okay, so getting into the pin configuration is very important because when you connect some device to the controller, you should know to which pin you are connecting. Then only you can write a program in such a way you can get a data from that pin. Okay, so for example, if you are connecting some sensor to the pin number 5 and if you are trying to get the data from the pin number 4, it is no mean, right? So you have to connect, you should know to which pin you are connecting the sensor. Then only you can directly read that pin and get the data from that sensor. You can communicate with that sensor. So we have the pin configuration here, so that you can see there are two different types of pin configuration is followed. One is the GPIO number. So GPIO number refers to the microcontroller. Okay, so this is the microcontroller, but this is the development kit. Okay, so GPIO pin refers to the microcontroller, whereas you can see another pin numbering D1, D2, D3 like this. So this is the pin number that refers to the development board. So here you can see GPIO 16 is the microcontroller pin. Okay, GPIO 16 is the microcontroller pin, and this is equal to the development pin number D0. Similarly, you can see D1, D2, D3, and corresponding pin numbers GPIO 5, GPIO 4. So like this it is mapped. So while using in the program, you can either use GPIO6 or you have to use D0. Okay, in case of Arduino programming, what you will do for accessing the pin number 2, pin number D2, you will just put 2, right? If you put 2, it refers to D2 in the Arduino, right? But in this case, if you put 2, it is refers to GPIO 2, whereas it is equal to D4. In case of ESP, GPIO2 refers to D4, but in case of Arduino, if you use 2 refers to D2. Okay, so you should know some basic difference between this handling the pin configurations. Okay, so you either you use the D4, or you can, or if you are very much sure with the microcontroller pin configuration, you can use this pin numberings. Okay, so this is how the basic difference will be. So you can see there are 3.3 voltage. We have the 3.3 voltage level, so that you can connect to your sensors, and these are all GPIO pins. So these are all GPIO pins, and we have the SPI pins here, and this is multiplexed as I2C pins, and you have the ADC here, so that you can connect the analog sensors. So whatever the voltage that you are giving, the input voltage like 5 volt or 6 volt or 9 volt, whatever the voltage you are giving to the development board should be given here. So this is the place where you have to give the voltage. So if you are connecting the battery, so your battery positive should be here and your battery negative should be connected here. Okay, so this is how you can connect the input voltage, that is the raw voltage, to this controller. Okay, so for programming this controller with the Arduino IDE, there are certain things you have to do before. You have to configure certain things. So I will just show you. Just open the Arduino that is you are installed. So then you have to go to the file preferences, so that you can have, you want to add the BSP. Basically, you want to add the BSP to the software, that is IDE. IDE is the what we are using here, integrated development environment. So to the IDE, we want to add the BSP packages. BSP refers to board support packages. Okay, so we need to have some board support packages for supporting the board we are using. So ESP is not a Arduino manufacturers of Arduino, right? So we need to add this board support package. So for that, you have to go to the file preferences, and you want to mention which package you want to use. Okay, so you want to mention like this, which package you want to use. So you can see your additional board manager is there, right? So you have to mention the package you want to use, and in the here you want to mention, if you want to use 32, you want to mention 32, and if you want to use 8266, that is NodeMC, you want to mention these packages here, and after that you want to install the thing. Okay, so this is a link. Okay, so this is the link. By after adding this link to the preferences, you have to go to the additional boards. So you want to go to the boards manager. It's in tools. Boards manager is in tools. You want to go to the boards manager, and then you have to search for the board that you have included in the preferences. That is the link preferences, and here there you can see ESP8266, and directly you can install and start using that. Okay, so this is how it works. So every time when you add a board, for example, if you want to use the ESP32, then again you want to select ESP32. Okay, so you want to select the ESP32 in the preferences, and then you want to go to this boards manager and install that. Okay, so it is already installed, right? So ESP8266, so it's already installed actually. So if you want to update, you can update it here. So like this you can install the new boards. Even you can program your Philips microcontroller by using this Arduino IDE. Okay, ESP32 is also already installed, right? Similarly, you can install whatever the board you want to use with this IDE, you can install. Because Arduino IDE is a open source. Okay, Arduino IDE is open source, so that you can use any controller. You can use any controller integrated with this IDE, and you can use it. Okay, all the one thing is you need to have the corresponding BSP, that is board support packages for the controller. If you have the corresponding board support package, you can directly add this controller to the Arduino IDE and start programming. Okay, it's not like that you can use Arduino only for programming the Arduino boards. It's not like that actually. You can use lot of boards are there. Okay, lot of boards will be supported, as you can see here. So you can, as you can see here, there are a lot of boards that will be supported by the this IDE. You just want to add that board packages to this IDE, and you can start using that. Okay, so like this you can have the lot of boards with the with this IDE. Okay, so this is how the entire things works, the theory parts. Okay, and one more thing, it is not essential to use only the Arduino IDE for programming this kind of board. You can also use the Eclipse IDE. I will also show you that. So this is the Eclipse IDE. So in the Eclipse IDE also you can add the Arduino packages, you can add the board support packages of the Arduino, and you can start programming for the Arduino, or you can add the packages for ESP8266 controller, and you can start using ESP8266 controller. Okay, so it will support that. For example, I will show you the code here. So here you can see the programming window will be like this. Okay, so this is how the programming window will be. So you can directly compile it here, and you can directly upload the code to the board. Whatever thing you want to do, you can do. Okay, what I suggest is, if you start using this kind of Eclipse or any other platform IO, there is another one IDE called platform IO. If you start using this kind of IDE, you will be more knowledgeable with the board you are using actually. Okay, so there is another one IDE is there, that is called platform IO. Okay, for beginners you can use this Arduino IDE, but if you want to be next to the beginner, if you want to be a advanced or expert level, you can start using this kind of IDEs where you will have the more intrusion, where you have the more control over the board. For example, if you want to do something changes, as you can see here, the pin mode 16 comma output. So this defines the pin number 16 as a output pin. This all we know. Okay, pin mode means the mode of the pin. Okay, either it can be input or output. So here it is defined as the output. So this we all know, but what is pin mode? What is written inside the pin mode? If you want to know that, you can just click on this and get inside the pin mode, and you can see what is actually happening in the register level. Okay, this is what happening in the register level. Okay, so by using this pin modes, you are accessing the registers. You can see you are accessing the registers in a 32-bit mode, and doing the rest of the things. So for each and every program, what's actually happening in the register level. Okay, you can see it by using the this kind of Eclipse IDE. Okay, and for example, what is output? Output is nothing but a one. The macro output is nothing but a macro corresponds to one. If you click on this, you can see. So output is nothing but a macro corresponds to one, right? So similarly, if you say low is nothing but a macro that is corresponds to 0. Okay, and I is nothing but a macro corresponds to 1. You can directly give 1 and 0 also. Instead of giving I and low, you can directly give 1 and 0 also. It will work. And instead of giving output, you can give 1. It will work. Okay. So if you know what is happening inside you, what is happening in the register level, what is you are going to do, you can easily you have the more control over the boards. Okay. Or you can also use this Arduino IDE. Okay, so or you can also use the Arduino IDE and program like this. Here we can have the uh, front end. Only we have the access to the front end. We don't know what's happening inside. Okay, we have the access to the front end, but it is easy way of programming. So you can just write some code like this and just upload the code to the board, and it will start working. Okay, fine. So basically, Node MCU board has a two LEDs integrated in the board itself. That is called built-in LEDs. We have the two LEDs in this board. One LED corresponds to, okay. So we have the two LEDs in this board. One LED corresponds to the controller, and one LED corresponds to the development kit. Okay, we have the two LEDs. One LED is there in the microcontroller, and one LED is there in the development kit. Okay, if you want to just do the blink operation, you can directly write the code like this, and you can access the LEDs. Okay, so pin number 16 corresponds to the microcontroller, and pin number 2 corresponds to the Node MCU. You can just have the control over these pins, and you can just blink that pin so that both the LEDs will glow. Okay, so for accessing one pin as output, you want to define as pin mode output, and then for writing the value to that pin, you want to use the command digital write. Digital write in the sense we are going to do some digital write. Digital write means we have only two cases, that is 1 or 0, right? That is high or low, true or false. We have only two cases. Here we are going to do the digital write to the pin, to the digital pin 2, and we are going to make it high. High in the sense we are going to make it 1. Okay, we are going to make it true, or we are going to make it 5 volt. Here in this case 3.3 volt. High means 3.3 volt, low means 0. Okay, so this is what the thing happening here. So just defining the pin is 2 and its mode, its output, and digital write digital pin 2 and write, what we are going to write is high. And after the 1000 delay, 1000 refers to the milliseconds here. So after the 1000 milliseconds, that is 1 second of delay, again we are going to make this pin low to high. So we can have like this. Okay. So we can define low and then we can make it high. So the same thing is happening here. Okay. The built-in LEDs will work on active low. Okay. So the built-in LEDs will work on active low in the sense what if you give the low signal, the LED will glow because it has the integrated transistors. By using the transistor, they're driving the circuit. So if you give the low, the LED will go. If you give the high, the LED will turn off. Okay. So it's acting active low. Okay. I will just connect this board. Okay, I'm just going to connect the board to the system so that I can do my first program. You can see how it works, and then we can go for the second sensors. So whenever we have some board, what we do basically we will do some blinking operation to make sure that ID is properly set and also the board is working fine. So to make sure all these things, what we do, we just blink the LED in the board itself. Okay, I'm just going to write this program. Okay, so it is successfully, the program is returned to the board. So it means that the software and hardware is working fine. Okay. So like the Hello World you are using in your software, here you are using the LED blink. It's similar to the Hello World. Whenever you do some program, first Java program or first C program, what you do? You do printf Hello World, right? Similarly, when it comes to the hardware, just blink the LED. It makes sure the software is working fine and the hardware is working fine. And the communication between the software and hardware is fine. Okay. So these things will be make sure. Fine. So the LED is blinking. And as I already told you, there are two LEDs, right? So if I want to access another LED, that is the controller LED, I just want to make this pin, okay, 2. So 2 refers to GPIO2, okay? That is D4. So I just reprogramming by changing the pin number. So it's getting writing. So you can see here the memory is being writing here, right? So you can see which memory location is being written right now. So now we have changed the pin number, right? So the built-in LED in the controller is blinking right now. Fine. So we achieved this. Okay. So next we are going to see some sensor operation. Okay. The basic digital things is confirmed right now. So it's working fine. So next we are going for some sensors. So right now we are going to see the sensor DHT11. Okay. So this is the sensor we are going to see. DHT11. Okay. This sensor is called DHT11 or DHT series. DHT11 is there. DHT22 is there. So basically it's a GST series. DHT series. Okay. So by using the sensor, what we can do, we can read the temperature, that is atmospheric temperature. Okay, we can read the atmospheric temperature and also we can read the humidity value, that is air moisture. Humidity is nothing but a air moisture content in the air, right? So we are going to read the air moisture and the temperature of the environment. So for that we are going to use the sensor. This is called DHT11. 11 is the lower series and we have the upper series 22 with some more improvement, like in the DHT22 we can give up to 6 voltage. So you can see the comparison here. You can give up to 6 voltage and the measurement range is -40 to +80 in the DHT22, and we have the different accuracy levels also. Okay, accuracy level of 0.5 degrees Celsius. So this is the difference between 22 and 11, and right now we have the DHT 11. Okay, fine. So in this chip, so this is a chip showing, whatever the chip I am showing here is this one. Okay, so this is the chip. So we need to connect there are 3 pins in the chip. We need to connect the voltage and ground. So whatever the sensors or any modules, whatever you are connecting to the controller, basically you will be having plus and minus, right? VCC ground. This is mandatory pins for all the sensors or modules. Okay, this is mandatory. You have to give the power supply to the module for its operation. And after giving the power supply to the module, it is going to give some data because it's a sensor. Sensor will give the data. Okay, it's not actuator so that we can give the data to actuate it. It's a sensor, so it's going to give the data to us. So either it will be one wire or some sensors like ultrasonic will be having the 2 wires. Based on the type of sensors we'll be having. Here we are going to use the DHT11, which is one wire sensor. Okay, the communication protocol of the DHT11 is one wire. So the data will be coming out of this D2. So we are going to get the data from the single wire because it's a one wire communication. So we'll be getting the data back to back. Okay. So we are going to interface the sensor to the DHT module. So for interfacing, first we need the libraries. Okay, this is one of the main advantages of using the IDE. Okay, using this Arduino IDE or Eclipse IDE, you can use the library files and you can make your work smaller. Actually, you don't want to write everything from the scratch because when it comes to the DHT sensor, it has its own data sheet and data packet. It is a 12-bit data packet. Okay, so you want to read the 12-bit data packet and you want to check for the parity, check some lot of things are there while reading the data from the sensors. You need to check for the parity, check some for the error correction. So after doing all those things, you will define, okay, this is the data and this is a valid data and it is correspond to some decimals. Okay, so after that only what we do, we will say the value of the temperature is some 32. Okay, we need to convert, actually it's in binary form from the sensor. We need to convert to decimal and or to the double, and we have to display it in the monitor or the screen. Okay, but when we use the library, okay, when we use the library by using the library, what will happen, most of the things will be done inside the libraries itself. You will directly connect the sensor and ask the sensor for the data. Okay, you will initialize the sensor and ask the sensor for the data and it will give the data. It makes your job easier. Okay, by using the library, just connect and then initialize and then get data. Okay, it makes your life easier by using the library files. I will show you how it works. Okay, so this is the example code. Okay, so this is the example code that we are going to use. Okay, so this is the example code we are going to use. Here we are using the library called dht.h. Okay, here we are using the library called dht.h so that we can whatever I have said, right? Okay, we need to get the 12-bit data from the sensor and we need to check for the checksum error and we want to convert the binary to decimal, and if you want the data in Fahrenheit or Celsius, that conversion, all those things will be done inside the library itself. Okay, you can just go and check it out. So whenever you do some programming, it is always good practice to check what is inside the library. Then only you know what they are doing inside it. Okay, so I'm just going inside the DHT. Okay, so this is the DHT. I'm just getting inside the DHT library. Okay, if you go inside the DHT library, you can see here. So they are handling the bits. Okay, this is for reading the data. Okay, they are shifting the data. This is for reading the data, and checksum is there. Need to check for the checksum so that to make sure the data whatever the data we received is valid or not, and for doing the conversion of temperature to the humidity, and also need to handle the negative values and positive values. Okay, so these are the things that is done inside the library. You can see it here. Okay, so after doing all those things, finally it will give the data in double. Okay, it will give the data in double, and even it can directly give the data in Fahrenheit or the Celsius. Okay, and here we are going to use this library and we are going to define to which pin the which sensor we are going to connect, because there are two types of sensors, right? We have DHT11, we have the DHT22, so we have the two types of sensors. Here it will define which sensor we are going to connect. We are going to connect DHT11 and where we are going to connect. Okay, so we are going to connect to the pin number D2. So after doing this, we need to pass this thing to the this class, DHT class. Library is nothing but basically a classes. Okay, as you have learned the object oriented programming languages like Java or C++, you can have classes, right? Classes and objects. Okay, so library is nothing but basically a classes, and we need to create an object for the class. So here we are creating the object for the class. The object name is DHT, and we have two default parameters for this class, for this object. This is constructor actually. Okay, so for this constructor we have the two default parameters. One is DHT pin and another is DHT type. DHT pin refers to which pin we are connecting, and DHT type refers to what is the type of sensor we are connecting. So we are just initializing the object instance. Okay, this is the instance of class. We are just initializing with object, and after that we are calling the member function of that object. We have the member function called begin inside the class. We are just calling the object member function and initializing the class object, and after initializing we are directly going to get the data. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are just going to connect the sensor, initialize the sensor, and going to get the data from the sensor by using the direct value read humidity and read temperature. And read temperature we in turn will read from the sensor, and after reading from the sensor it will do the checksum operation, all those things, and everything will be done inside the library function itself, and we'll be directly getting the temperature value here. Okay, so now we can directly connect it here. So for connecting we have the pins. So we have the three pins in the sensor. Okay, of course we need to give the power, and then we have to get the data. So power pin we have to connect to the 3.3 voltage. So this is a 3.3, right? So power pin we want to connect to the 3.3 and negative to the ground, and data we need to connect to the pin number D2. Okay, so we need to connect to the pin number D2. So if you have, want to know where is D2, you can see it in the pin diagram. Okay, so this is D2. So we need to connect to the pin number D2. Okay, so now the connections is done with this board. Let's upload and check for the value. Okay, it's done uploading. So we can see the data in the serial monitor. Serial monitor is something where we will print the data. So as you can see here, we are printing the value, whatever the value we are getting from the sensor, we are printing it in the serial port. Right now we are not connecting any devices to the serial port, so just it is acting as a debugging port right now. So I'm just opening the serial monitor. You can see the value here, and the baud rate. Baud rate is nothing but a bits per second. At what speed we are going to print? It is 115200. Just change it to 115200. You will be getting the data here. Okay, so you'll be getting the temperature of 33.9. So we are getting the temperature of 33.9 and humidity as 60. So this is Celsius and this is percentage, air moisture in percentage and temperature in Celsius. Okay. So if you want to have some flavor, you can directly add like this. C, you can put degree Celsius for C, and you can add some percentage. So these are all the flavors. Whatever you want to do some cosmetics, you can do it here. Okay. Print refers to print next to the statement, and println refers to the print by line. Okay, print will print by character, whereas the println will print line by line. So if I use println, it will go to the next line. Otherwise it will keep on printing character by character next to the characters. Okay, it's getting uploading. So whenever sometimes people used to ask, I am writing some code and uploading it to the board, and if I turn off the power, what will happen? Will the code will erase? Of course not. The code will not erase. Okay. So whatever the code you are writing to the board will be stored inside the flash itself until you do the another programming and overwrite it. Okay, the code will not get erased. Sometimes people used to ask, if I am writing the code and storing it to the board, and what will happen if I remove the power connection or if I remove it from the computer? Nothing will happen. The code will be inside for until you do the another writing process. Okay. So this is how we have successfully connected this temperature humidity sensor to the board, and we have read the data. So this is the data. Okay, let me do some changes in the data. I will just blow in the sensor so that it will have some moisture. So as you can see, the moisture is getting changed, right? I'm just going to blow the sensor so that it can have some moisture. Whenever I blow, it's getting to 64 and coming back to the actual value 62. Okay, fine. So far what we have done, we have seen what is the ESP controller and what are the features of ESP controller, and we can and how we can do the digital access, like how we can blink an LED by using blink an LED is nothing but a digital write, that is digital IO, digital output. Okay, so how to do the digital output, and then how we can connect the sensor interface with the controller. Okay, so these things and all we can easily do with other boards also, right? Other controllers also, this thing and all easily possible. Even if you are using your 8051, or if you are using your PIC controller, or if you are using your Admega series, that is AVIA controller. So whatever you are using, the same thing can be easily possible with that controller too. But what is the difference between the ESP and other controllers is Wi-Fi. It has the integrated TCP/IP stack. Okay, it has the inbuilt Wi-Fi. So that is the advantage of using this controller. So in the next program, we are going to see how we can publish this data to the web page. That is the local web page, local server, local web server, by using the TCP/IP stack. So that is what we are going to see in the next thing. So that comes that will tell you the advantage, actually advantage of using this controller. Okay, I will show you the code for that. Okay, so this is the program for utilizing the TCP stack for making the controller as a web server. Web server in the sense it's a local web server which is not connected to the internet. Okay, so this is the local web server. So this is a program for making the controller to act as a local web server. So by making it as a local web server, we can directly connect to the controller by using IP address, because we are using TCP/IP stack, right? So it has an integrated TCP/IP stack, and we are going to connect to the controller by using the IP address of the controller. For that, we are going to assign some IP address to the controller. Right now, we are going to use the DHCP, so that dynamically it will allocate some IP from the router itself. Router in the sense the access point, whatever the access point we are using right now. Okay, so the same thing we are going to do. We are going to have the program for reading the temperature and humidity value by using the DHT sensor. So as you can see here, we are going to read the temperature and humidity value by using the DHT sensor here. So this thing will not change. Okay, so this thing will not change. You will be defining the class for, you are initiating the object for the class and getting the data. That thing will not change. And after that, what you are going to do, you are going to publish this data in the internet in a web page. So we are going to create a page by using the HTML. So for doing that, so we need a two libraries. Okay, we need a two libraries. One is called ESP8266 Wi-Fi library. This is for activating the Wi-Fi connections. And another is ESP8266 web server for creating the web server and sending it to the TCP. Okay. So for sending the web page to the TCP, we have one library. For activating the Wi-Fi connections to get connected to the Wi-Fi, we are using this ESP8266 Wi-Fi. Okay, we need these two things: one for creating the web server, one for activating the Wi-Fi. Okay, and after that, we are going to create a class for the web server. We are going to create a class for the web server with the object server 80 is nothing but a port number. So where we are going to show our page. Okay, we are going to create a page and show it in the browser, right? So what is the port number for showing that? 80 is a, actually we always use the local host. Okay, so 80 is the port number we are going to publish. So and then we need to begin the Wi-Fi by using the SSID and password. Okay, SSID and password is nothing but your Wi-Fi username password. That is whenever you tether a hotspot with your in your phone, what will happen if your friend want to connect with your hotspot? What will happen? You will just tether, right? Tether means you will give some password. So that is called password, and the name of your phone is there, right? It is called the SSID. So we need a SSID and password of the router or the hotspot, whatever we are using. Here I have set it as embedded and embedded. So this is the SSID and password, so that this Wi-Fi microcontroller will automatically get connected to that particular hotspot. Okay, that particular router. So for connecting, we need to create an object for the Wi-Fi class, that is Wi-Fi.begin, and if it is connected, we need to know what is the IP. So we are just printing the IP. For printing the IP, we have the command like Wi-Fi.local IP. So after getting the IP address, we will print the IP address of the module. Okay, and then we want to do the HTTP, that is we want to create some pages and display it, right? So for creating the pages, so this is a command, HTML commands. You might be learned, or you might have seen this, right? For creating the page, we have the HTML commands. So we are creating the page by using the HTML commands, and all the commands is concatenated to the single string. Okay, all these commands are concatenated to the single string, and it is passed to the TCP. Okay, so this is the page design. Okay, this is the page design, and in this page we are going to insert two arguments that we are reading from the sensor. One is temperature argument and another one is humidity argument. Okay, what we are going to do, we are going to read the temperature data from the sensor, we are going to read the humidity data from the sensor, and we are just going to send this to the TCP with the string. So send HTML, this will return a string by passing the temperature humidity arguments. Okay, so what we are doing here, we are just passing the temperature humidity values and adding this value to the page design. Okay, so this is the page design, so we are adding this value to the page design and getting the entire thing here back and passing it to the server. Okay, so what will happen, it will, if it is connected and connection is successfully established, the entire thing will be published as a web page. Okay, I will show you how it works. So basically this code will read the data from the sensor and display the data in the browser, in a local web browser. Okay, it is not in the by using the internet, in a local web browser. Fine. So this function will basically create a string for creating the web page. Okay, for creating the web page, this will create a string, and this string will be passed to the server, TCP server. Okay, I'm just uploading this code. By this code, we need to connect the sensor to the D8. So I'm just connecting the sensor to the D8. Wherever you want, you can connect any digital pin. You can use it. No issues if you connect to D2 or D1 or D3. So wherever you want, you can connect the sensor, but you want to mention that value in the program also. That is the thing. So the program is being uploaded. So this program shows you the real application of having the TCP IP stack in the controller. So initially I will show in the local, and then I will show you in the internet. Okay, this program will show you in local server, local network. But anyway, it uses Wi-Fi for connecting and for sending the pages to the TCP. Okay, it's being getting compiled. Okay, it's saying the comport access is denied, so it makes the comport is already in the open condition. Okay, so I just close the comport and upload it again. Whatever the program you are sending to the microcontroller is sent via serial port. So which we are using as a debug port is the same port which we are using for programming. And to the same port we will connect the GSM and GPS. So while handling this side kind of things, the port should be in the closed condition. So while you are programming, you just close the port and then do the programming, because the programming will be done via serial port. The debugging will be shown in the serial port, and some serial devices can also be connected. Okay, so when doing the upload operation, that devices should be removed, like Bluetooth or Zigbee or GPS, GSM. If you are connecting some devices to the serial port, it should be removed before programming. Otherwise, it will show error, because serial port will not work parallelly. Same port will not work parallelly. Okay, it's showing some error. Okay, I will just program it again. To see this compilation and programming sort of operation in this console, you have to enable it in the preferences. Then only it will show like this. Okay, it's showing done uploading. So after done uploading is done, we need to it is waiting for the connection. So now right now it is connected. So the HTTP server is started. So the IP address of the controller is 192.168.43.147. So by using this IP address, now we can easily access the controller data. Whatever the data we are passing to the TCP, that is created as a string, right? So whatever the data that is created as a string, we can see it now in the browser. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to open the browser, any browser, and you just type the IP address along with the port address, or it will automatically detect the port address. Okay. So then you will get the data. Whatever the data you are passing to the TCP, you will get it there. So I'm just connecting back the sensor here. Okay. So the sensor is connected back. So make sure the connections are firm. And I'm just going to open the browser. I need to type the port address, IP address of the controller. 43 dot. So what is the address? 147. Okay. So here we are getting the values. So as you can see, we have connected the sensor to the controller. So this is the sensor is connected to the controller, and we are getting the data of the sensor in the web page. Okay, so this is the design that is done in the. So you can see the design. Whatever the design we have created here will be reflected there. So here we are mentioning, right? So we are mentioning here in header one we want to show ESP8266 node MCU weather report. Okay, so that is what displayed there. ESP8266 node MCU weather report, and then we want to display the temperature and humidity value. So that is given in the program. So we are displaying the temperature and humidity value here. Okay, so this is what we have given in the code, and we have given some color functions and margin and alignment, those things. So that is what shown here, and the title is ESP8266 weather report. Okay, so that will be displayed in the title window. So when you have the title here, so this is the title, right? So when you keep it at the title window, you can see ESP8266 weather report, and we have the name and we have the temperature humidity value here, and I can just try to change it so that I can see whether it's changing or not. Okay, I'm just trying to change the value. So while displaying in the TCP, it will take some time. So what is the delay time for each data update? So we need to check with the delay time of each data update. Okay, so as you can see now the value is changed. Okay, it's changed to 61. The temperature to 34. Okay, so this is how the data can be displayed in the browser by using the Wi-Fi microcontroller. Okay, so I think you will be getting some idea. So if you want to read some sensor data and if you want to display it in some browser window, you can use this kind of codes. Okay, I will share this codes to the Sendil Kumar sir. I will share all this code. I will share to the sir. Those who are interested, you can collect this code and you can try it on your own. Okay. So next, what we are going to do is we are going to see about I2C. So far we have seen one wire. Okay, this DHT11 is a one wire communication. DHT11 sensor is a one wire communication, right? So next we are going to see I2C communication. Okay, so this is the one wire communication, and blinking the LED we have done the digital communication. So next we are going to see how we can interface the I2C communication. For interfacing the I2C communication, I just give you the idea about I2C. Okay, so this is how the I2C communication will be there. Okay, I2C is basically the two wire communication. So the two wires are SDA and SCL, that is serial data and serial clock. Okay, in I2C module will be having the two wires for the data communication. One is data and another one is clock. By using this, we will do the communication. And apart from that, of course, we should have the voltage and ground. We have VCC, ground, SD, SCL. These four lines will be there in the module of I2C module. Okay, and I2C, what is the advantage is you can connect the n number of sensors to the same I2C pin like this. So you can connect the n number of sensors to the same I2C pin, and you can make the multi-master with the multi-slave pattern, or you can make the single master with the multi-slave pattern. Like what does it mean is, if you have the I2C devices, your single I2C device can read the data from the multiple sensors. Okay, your single I2C device, your I2C device here is Node MCU, that is ESP. So your single I2C device can read the data from the different sensors that is connected to the same pin. Okay, so if you take your Node MCU, what will happen? So if you take your Node MCU, so this is I2C pins. In your Node MCU, these two are I2C pins. Okay, so that is SCL and SDA. Okay, so these two are I2C pins. So by you can connect the multiple sensors to the same I2C pin. So that you can connect one temperature sensor here. So you can connect one temperature sensor, and again you can connect some accelerometer. You can connect some accelerometer, and again you can connect some RTC. Okay, you can connect some RTC. So this N type of sensors can be connected to the same two wire. By means of address, you will get the value of the particular sensor, and you can again connect some LCD. Okay, so like this, we can connect the N number of sensors to the I2C of the Node MCU. So that is the advantages. So what we are going to do, we are going to use the single master with the multiple slaves, so that the different sensors can be connected to the master. Okay, so this is how the communication will be like. Your microcontroller will be the master here, ESP, and you can connect your EEPROM, that is a memory device or the sensor or the ADC or whatever the I2C modules you can connect it to the same microcontroller, and you can access by using your microcontroller. So that is the advantage. And the model that we are going to see now is MPU6050. Okay, the module that we are going to see for I2C connection now is so the I2C model that we are going to connect now is MPU6050. Okay, so MPU6050 is nothing but a accelerometer, that is a gyro accelerometer, and this you can see it in your mobile phone itself. So whenever you have your mobile phone, if you turn your mobile phone in a horizontal position, what will happen? Automatically the image will be in the landscape, right? So if you are playing some video in your YouTube and you are just rotating your phone, what will happen? Automatically you will be getting in the video in the full screen, right? And again, if you turn your phone to the portrait, what will happen? Your video will be getting into the smaller size. So how the sensor, how the phone knows you are rotating your phone, you are placing your phone down, or you are having your phone in the horizontal position, or you are having your phone in the vertical position. Basically, how your phone knows means it has the integrated accelerometer. That is the MEMS motion tracking devices. These are all comes under MEMS motion tracking devices. So it has the integrated accelerometer which will sense your phone XYZ axis. Okay. So it will sense the phone's XYZ axis, and based on the XYZ position, so based on the XYZ position, it will say your phone is in vertical or your phone is in horizontal. So based on that, based on this, what will happen? You will get the data to your sensor. Okay, and particularly this MPU 6050 is a 6-axis. Okay, so MPU 6050 is a 6-axis accelerometer, and if you want to go for the advanced, we have another model called MPU 9250, that is the 9-axis. Okay, and if you want to go for the lower version, we have ADXL 345. This is 3-axis. Okay, so ADXL 345 is the 3-axis, whereas the sensor we are going to see now as the 6-axis, and for the 9-axis we have another sensor called 9250. Okay, these are all different types of MEMS motion tracking devices, and we are going to connect one of the sensor now, that is the MPU 6050, that is 6-axis. So I will show you the device now. I just make it fast, so I will show you the device now. So this is the device. Okay, we are going to connect this device. In our earlier application, what we did is we connected the sensor and we have seen in the local web server itself, and now we are going to connect this sensor. This is the MEMS sensor, and we are going to connect this sensor by means of I2C communication. And after connecting this sensor, we are going to read this data in the um, web. Okay, so I will show you how to connect this. So we have the 4 wires. So there are 4 wires, that is VCC, ground, and we have the 4 wires. We have VCC, ground, and we have SDA, SCL. Okay, so just wires are connected. So since it is a 3.3 voltage devices, MEMS also support 3.3, so you can directly connect to 3.3 and ground to the ground pin. And we have to connect the SCL and SDA. Okay, so now the connections are made. So now let us read this. So I will show you the code for reading the data from the sensor. Okay, so this is a code for reading the data from the sensor. For this, we are going to use the IP address, the address that is the I2C address. Okay, so we are going to use the I2C address of the device. So the I2C address of the device is 68. So for identifying the I2C address of the device, either you can go with the data sheet, or you can use the program called I2C scanner. So there is a program called I2C scanner that by using that you can get the I2C address of the device. Device is connected in the controller with the master. Okay, so or you can directly go with the datasheet, and datasheet you can see the I2C address. So this is the I2C address of the module, and by using this address we are going to access and get the data here. Okay, we are going to get the XYZ and gyro XYZ. Okay, so after getting the data, so these are the data we are going to get. So after getting the data, we are going to display it in the screen, and also what I am planning to do is to display it in the internet, so by using the IoT. Okay, so for that what I have chosen is I have chosen the IoT platform called Blink. There are different types of IoT platforms available, and here I have chosen the IoT platform called Blink. By using the Blink IoT platform, I just going to show the data. Okay, basically what's going to happen is I'm going to read the data from the sensor, and this sensor data is going to be given to the web and displayed in the mobile application. Okay, I'm just uploading this code. So you can install the Blink application from the Play Store. Okay, if you go to the Play Store, you can install the mobile application. So right now this is the mobile screen. Okay, so this is the mobile screen. You can install this Blink application from the Play Store, and after installing you can create a data like this. Okay, so this is the data. Okay, it's compiling. So what we are trying to do now is we are going to read the data from this accelerometer. Accelerometer will give you the XYZ position of the sensor. That is the gyro and the XYZ position of the sensor. And this sensor data will be read by the microcontroller via I2C communication, because we have given the interface by using the I2C communication. Okay, so we have given the data to the controller from the sensor by using I2C communication. So this data will be read by the controller, and this data is given to the IoT cloud. Okay, this data is given to the IoT cloud by using the unique authentication. This is the unique authentication for accessing the specific mobile application. So this is the specific mobile platform. For accessing this, we have the unique identification and internet username password. This is Wi-Fi username password. By using this, we can directly write this data that we are getting from the sensor to the IoT platform, and we can see it in this mobile application. Okay. So these are the features. So what we have done is, first we have did directly read the sensor data, and then we displayed in the local web server, and now we are displaying it in the IoT server. IoT server in the sense we can view this value from anywhere from the world, right? So we have the access of controlling and monitoring the data that is connected to the IoT board. So now the Node MCU will be acting as a IoT board. Okay. So that we can get this data and access from anywhere from the world. Okay, now the system is connected. So as you can see, now the system is connected here. So the whatever the data we are getting from the sensor will be displayed in the mobile application. So I'm just planning to, okay, I just planning to rotate this. So we are getting the value like 225, right? So this is the value that is being displayed in the mobile application. Just check with the connections. So whatever the value we are getting from the sensor will be displayed in this mobile app. Okay, so we are getting the data now. So we are getting the data, and you can check. Okay, I'm just rotating the sensor here. So as per the XYZ position of the sensor, position of the sensor, you will get the data in the output of the class. Okay, so this is how we can integrate the sensor and get the data via IoT platform. Okay, so I hope this session will be useful. So I am planning to wind up with this. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can ask in this moment.
Yeah, it is over to the audience. Can anyone of you have doubts, or otherwise anyone of you need clarification? You can ask to him. You can unmute yourself and then you can ask. Okay. Then let me conclude. Okay. Thank you, Ravi Varman, for giving us a wonderful opportunity of exposing about this microcontroller on those interfaces with temperature sensor, as well as we are very happy to see how the data has been acquired and then it has been published in the web. That is, it was a strong motivation to get all the data and then putting to Internet of Things. This was the first platform where the students has been exposed through Internet of Things. Okay, I am very glad that our student is doing a lot of things in IoT. So in near future, we will be contacting you in to a live session, or otherwise where the students can interact with you and get to know a lot of things that is happening through Internet of Things. Okay, I think let us conclude the session now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.